everybody. Christina Previtt here for Wake Up Call Live, and joining me today is special guest Karianne. Karianne. Kariana? Kariana.
My earbuds just connected.
Kariana. There's been a lot of debate about this. It seems silly we're spending time on this, but I've heard everything. I've heard Karianne, Karianne. Okay. So Kariana.
Well, right, because there's an E on the end, but it's pronounced as an
because
A.
you're Norwegian. Is that why? Okay, there we go. Okay, so
Yeah.
Kariana. That relieved some of the confusion from Anthes.
You got it. Yeah, it's not an easy last name either.
What is the origin of that last name?
I have no idea.
I should have asked Bill the other day when I knew him.
I mean, he has, European somewhere, so who knows?
Well, you're both, sort of like fair and blonde-ish. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, my blonde is slowly disappearing.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, I have balayage, so I can get away with it. And if anybody's watching this, like long after COVID is done, it is COVID season right now. So that's why we're all at home with bad roots and no nails. I don't even want to show my hands like all the way, but I have no nails. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, Karianne is the founder and co-owner of CrossFit Motown, right?
Yeah.
And that is located in Morristown, New Jersey. And I've invited you on today because I've had you on my podcast in the past, but we talked about more existential stuff. And I really want to talk to you today about how you started your business, because oddly, I don't really know a lot about that. I've heard references to a bunch of women in a parking lot, which I'm intrigued by, because it's like kind of a big deal now. So let's start there. Like, how did you start a gym?
Sure. So, I mean, I was in the fitness world. I had worked for the Rutgers Recreation, running their gyms, like gym management. I worked for New York Sports Club. I worked a stint helping open a Gold's Gym. And then I worked at the Somerset Hills YMCA as like a wellness director. So, at that point was very familiar with like group exercise, personal training, the whole like gym floor kind of scenario. But I guess what was lacking for me in all of those endeavors was, well, one, being taken seriously. I felt like I was seen as a young female, and it was kind of like, stay in your lane, stay in your corner. Don't try to do something different. Don't try to revolutionize what we're doing. Just do what's been done and kind of keep going. And I felt also like I really believed in making an impact in people, like really elevating people's quality of life through fitness. And I guess I just felt like it was a little bit of not a lie, but just like check the box, sell the personal training, and just do the work. Don't really worry about if it's actually making an impact. And that, it just didn't sit well with me. So I decided to leave the YA job.
How old were you at the time?
I guess I was 27, 26. I mean, Marcus was a couple of years old. So probably about that, 26 or 27. I was a very young mom. I was thinking about it the other day, not to do a tangent, but like I would be nervous now to have a baby. And then I thought about it and I'm like, I was like 25 when I had a baby. I knew how did I even do that? Anyway, so I guess I just decided to start my own thing. And maybe it was naive or ignorant at the time to just think it was that easy. But I don't really remember there being that much like debate about it or fear. I think it was just this, like, I can't continue doing this. Isn't going in a path that I think will be fulfilling. So there's really only one option there. So I did start this Empower boot camp. I guess I also did some personal training. I had some clients that wanted to stay with me that I had been training at the Y, so I would go to their home, which is why our the LLC of the business is still Homebodies Training.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I started a boot camp, and we would meet at Harry Dunham, which is a park in Liberty Corner. And, you know, I was at that time not doing CrossFit, but I was just incorporating whatever I was doing at the time. But I don't think it really mattered even then, like what were we doing? Agility ladders? Were we doing sprints, lunges, step ups? Who cares? It was about like connecting to these women, creating this caring relationship, which is really what, you know, and trying to help them meet their needs. And that was kind of it. So now I look back and think like, what was I thinking? But at the time,
it worked out.
Like, yeah, it did. I think, but I was definitely hungry for what was next. And so after doing that, I guess a couple of years, I went to a CrossFit level 1, more so just as like a continuing education, wanting to still learn. That was something new at the time. And as soon as I finished there, I was like, okay, I need to affiliate as a CrossFit. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a space. Like, and they were like, you know, it was very new at the time. And so when I came home, I wrote an essay to affiliate. But then as soon as I did that, I was like, I need a space. If I want to do this, I want to do it the right way. And therefore I need, you know, a space to do it in. So I was schlepping barbells to the park for a while. I bought barbells for $10 a piece at Rutgers. These ones they were going to get rid of.
Did you have a van?
No, I had like a GMC Envoy.
Oh my God, I don't even know how you fit all that stuff in there.
And then when I decided to open, which was only, I went to the level 1 in April, and of October, I had a space and was opening, which again, I mean, I look at that and think like, what was I thinking? But I guess my motto and what it still is, and it might sound really oversimplified, is just like, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. And the only reason I was going to fail is if I stopped trying.
Yeah.
So
I have a coach who always says people don't fail, they quit.
Yeah. And I would agree. I mean, it might not be exactly what you set out for.
Yeah.
But if you work at it and you're willing to put the time in and the work in and find solutions to things, like, I think you can have success.
Well, I want to back up a little bit because you have told me in the past that you didn't consider yourself an athlete. You didn't play sports in high school. So how did you get into fitness?
Well, I mean, I played like tennis. I did ski team. I dabbled in those things, but definitely wasn't an athlete. Then I went to Norway for a year to go to school. And I deferred my admission to the University of Maryland. So when I came back, I just would go there. And it was a very interesting year because you know, in Norway, like it's not as, or I didn't feel like there was as much pressure on looking a certain way, being dressed a certain way. And I had this year with a bunch of girlfriends that was all just about having fun with girlfriends and not at all about any type of fitness. We drank a lot. We smoked a lot. We ate a lot of
I can't believe
terrible food. Oh yeah. I mean, we would eat, then we'd go out, then we'd go to Burger King on the way home. You know, I mean, I would eat whatever. I mean, you wouldn't have even recognized me, Christina. When my parents came to pick me up in March, and they didn't recognize me. Like, my hair was this short and black. I had a tongue piercing. So I had this year of kind of like going all the way to one side. And then when I came back, I realized like, okay, I definitely don't want to, I want to clean this up a little bit. And I was dating someone at the time that was really big into the gym. And I had a very good friend who was big into the gym. So I started going, and I do remember like, and of course I think about what I did. Like, I would eat like a bagel before, or, you know, like I probably burned like 200 calories and I was eating, you know, 1,000 as a post and pre-workout.
We're carving up.
Yeah.
for your little workout.
But it was like traditional, like doing the pre-core, doing bis and tris. And I remember though, for like the first time seeing like my bicep in the mirror. And I was like, this is amazing. Like I felt, I don't know. I mean, I know that's an aesthetically based thing, but I felt like, wow, like that's kind of cool. Like there's progress. I did that. I committed. So then when I went to Maryland, I got a job at the gym and definitely went the other way, like kind of crazy obsessive. Like I, you know, was eating super healthy, working out all the time. But really at that point.
Did you come back from Norway fat? Or like, you know, I don't know what's going on.
I wasn't like fat, but I was definitely chubby.
Wow, yeah. I can't believe that. I thought you were going to say you went there and you got into nature and you were eating vegetables and homemade bread.
Well, I did eat homemade bread, but in addition to many other things. So yeah, I kind of went the other way, but really like started having an affinity for fitness and helping people even more so. And so then by the time I then transferred to Rutgers, I continued with that, with working in their gym and getting into teaching aerobics and kind of so on and so forth. But I still don't consider myself athletic.
That's funny because I think a lot of people would. I mean, I consider you athletic. I'm sure a lot of other people that have that perception.
But like if I couldn't play like soccer or basketball, like I'm not good with those type of athletic skills or movements. Like I'm good at fitness.
I guess it depends on how you define athlete.
Yeah. I guess that's probably accurate. But I guess that's also an insecurity of mine that I don't see myself as athletic. Like I always feel if I see myself doing like a workout, like I don't feel like I look like, even if you're talking in CrossFit, like the games athletes, how they squat or how they move. I'm like, I don't feel like I look like that. I kind of feel like I'm pretending to be like that. But you know, I do feel like I'm fit. I can say that I definitely feel like I'm a fit person. So,
yeah, well, and you can do a muscle up, right? So
I guess that's.
Well, you're an athlete in my book. Okay, so you got into fitness. You had your outside boot camp kind of thing. I don't want to call it a boot camp if that's not what it was.
It was a boot camp. That's what I called it.
Was it all women? Did you get men involved too?
It was all women. And then at Thanksgiving, we would do like a big workout, kind of like we still do now. And I guess I started inviting, you know, husbands and whatever, they could come. But until I opened the gym, it was all women, which is kind of funny because CrossFit is more like I would say it's more of a masculine type sport. But here are these housewives that were like doing CrossFit before their husbands, and their husbands were, when they were like, oh, you should try it. It was like, it's probably some, you know, I'm not going to use another fitness kind of type, but
like
not
Pilates or yoga or something.
Yeah. So it was funny when they came, we're like, what, this is what you've been doing. So that at that point I did open it up to men as well.
How much were you charging them? And what year was this?
First of all, I'm just going to say right now, I don't even remember how old I am. Like I can't figure out if I'm 41 or 42. So asking about years is a little bit tough. So if Marcus was about 2 or 3 and he's 15 now, so that was, you know, 12 years ago. So, you know, what is that, 2008?
Yeah.
So about 2008. And I don't know, I mean, I was charging them, I probably had some, I always feel like I had, as far as like entrepreneurship, I operated as if I was much more established than I was. Like, and what I mean by that is, like I wanted it to appear like it wasn't just a slapdash kind of operations. So like, okay, there's like the one-time fee, or you could buy a package, or trying to at least formalize it a little bit.
Yeah.
So it didn't just feel like some crazy lady with some stuff in the back of her car collecting
might
cash.
have been a little bit. But how did you come up with that? Did you have coaches? Did you just look at what other people were doing? Did you just make it up as you went?
I mean, I think I was so familiar with group exercise at that point that, and what most gyms like Gold's Gym or New York Sports Club, any of those gyms, the main thing that keeps those gyms alive is group exercise. That's like a fact about the industry.
Okay.
So it's a very important piece of having people have accountability and all that stuff. So, I kind of felt like, okay, I'm just doing what I know how to do, what works on my own, what I learned from years of working for other people. There was at the time this adventure boot camp. So it was kind of a trend at that time. I feel like boot camps, outside boot camps, they were a franchise. And I felt like, I get it, the name, but why I would spend that much money for a name that really, it does come down to the person actually teaching the class. I ended up with a couple of coaches. One actually went on to then coach and come along with me with CrossFit. But mostly it was just, I can't remember, 4-5 times a week, I guess we did.
And this was it, where was it, Basking Ridge or Bernardsville or?
Liberty Corner.
Oh,
so
Liberty
there's a big
Corner.
park. Yeah, there's a big park there. But then, what was interesting also, and I can't remember when this happened, but the town started charging for park use. So they wanted to charge like $150 an hour if you wanted to use their park.
That's kind of ridiculous.
So that was sort of at the same time as I was, embarking on the gym. And I was thinking, well, I mean, I remember even one time we tried to do something outside. Like, I think it was right when the gym was about to open. And somewhere in Bernardsville, there was a big vacant community parking lot that never was used. And we got like kicked out of it. So it was sort of a strange thing. And I thought, well, that's unfortunate because that business model, I don't think it's like that everywhere. In Austin, there's fitness boot camps everywhere.
Yeah.
And here that model just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of a scene from I think it was Bridesmaids, where these two. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
It's really funny. Well, that part where they go to the park and they don't want to pay for the boot camp, so they just follow and do the workout and pretend like they just happen to be there walking. I could see people doing that to you. But anyway, so you open up the gym, and was it Gorilla? Was that what you opened at the time, or what was it?
No. So I opened as Empower. So that was the name of the boot camp. So I just carried that through. I think though the official, I can't remember how I applied for the affiliation. I think it may have been CrossFit Bernardsville officially, but I used that name also. So CrossFit Bernardsville, it was originally Empower because it was like moms, so that didn't really fit. Yeah.
The letter M? Okay.
Yeah. So CrossFit Bernardsville, that's what that started as. And that was downtown Bernardsville, this tiny space, 1,200 square feet. And I had, I don't even remember, 20 members, maybe 20 women max.
And did you advertise? How did you get the word out there?
Yeah.
Because you're realizing you're a business owner now. You're, right? At that time,
yeah.
You're a business owner.
Right. And what's weird is at that time, there was no social media. So you didn't have really Facebook. You didn't have anything. So there was some of those Clipper, put it in the local thing or the local, those all just always felt so strange to me. I kind of felt like this is definitely not going to get me anybody. But I guess it was just word of mouth. I felt like I had a group of people that wanted me to continue, wanted me to succeed, wanted to promote it. And I mean, I was on a main street with this, you could see the sign, but I think a lot of it was just word of mouth. I would go to different events. I would go to the Chamber of Commerce thing. I mean, I tried to be involved in that type of effort, but I think it just was a couple of the right people getting involved. We would have free Saturday type things. And, I had regular people trying it out, and I think it was beneficial because at the time it was something so different. There hadn't been a new fitness thing in a while.
Yeah.
So that was definitely, the timing there was great because people hadn't really heard of CrossFit. So it's like, oh, anytime there's something new like that, like I find it hard to believe what's going to be new now, because that was like the birth of like high intensity training. And now we've seen it all. We know long and slow, we know high intensity, we got the core stuff. Like we kind of have like exhausted everything, but at the time it's crazy that like really their high intensity training was that was like really the start of it.
So show me where the evolution was. It was Empower, and then it was CrossFit Bernardsville. I don't know why I'm
yeah. So I think I affiliated as CrossFit Bernardsville. So it was CrossFit Bernardsville, and then I was thinking that Bernardsville is so small, and I used to drive back and forth, to Morristown, whatever to shop or. Yeah. And I would pass that building coming out of Morristown on Market Street. Now, obviously, they're building it up, but I would sit at that light, and it was always vacant. And I would think like, wow, that would be a perfect CrossFit space. And because of the nature of what we do there, high ropes, wall balls, it is sort of an industrial looking space, but it was at the time kind of a cool building also. So it had that vibe of like, and it's in a bigger city. So that was sort of like the wheels started turning a little bit. And so in 2010, I opened there in addition to Bernardsville. So now I had CrossFit Bernardsville, I had CrossFit Morristown. Yeah.
So did you ever look back? Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, did you look back?
And so at that point,
sorry, I think there might be a delay with our audio. Go ahead. You go.
Okay. At that point, so 2008, so that I'd only been open 2 years when I decided to open the new one. But I definitely had that like gut feeling, like this is the right call. And like I had urgency. I'm like very big on urgency. When I make when I like that switch goes off, then it's like, okay, we're going to make this happen. And I had some coaches at that point, probably 3 coaches. It wasn't a leap to think, okay, I could manage this. I hired at the time a full-time coach that would be primarily for Morristown, which is actually the kid that was friends with Bill and how I ended up meeting Bill, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I guess at the time, like it was kind of a big operation. Like it was turning into something bigger. I sat down with the landlord, came up with like an increasing, rent for the next 5 years, whatever it was. And, yeah, off we went. I was very fortunate. I had 2 members at the time. One of them is still a member of our gym, and one now owns his own gym. He left his job and opened a gym and moved to Florida, who gave me the initial investment, who lent me money to open Morristown, which was, everything. So, so we opened that in January of 2010 and had the 2 for probably another year or 2 until my lease was up on the first place.
And you just let the other one go? It
was redundant, and I felt like this Bernardsville was too small of a community to really carry that, and we had kind of outgrown it really. So, everything moved over.
So did you ever look back at that time or any time really and say, oh my God, I can't believe I went from doing, classes at the Y to doing a few classes at a park, and now here I am with 2 gyms and, now one larger gym?
Yeah, I feel like it's, I do think I can say that I think I'm good at what I do, but I don't look at it in that way. Like, I don't think I'm good at recognizing like, wow, that's kind of a big deal. Like, that's something that someone else might look at and say, wow, I would like to aspire to that. Or not that it's about someone else, but do you know what I mean? I could look at someone and say, wow, that's really like the pliable lady. Like, wow, she started in her truck and now she has all these pliables, or whoever came up with Poshmark or whatever. I can look at those stories and be like, that's amazing. I guess I still see it as a small business, not, so it's like, I don't know, is it that big of a deal?
Well, does it
I
have
think
to
in
be a big
hindsight,
business? Does it have to be a big business to be
no.
a big deal?
I just mean, like, what I mean by that is it's not this, the growth was substantial, but it's not like this insane thing that I had to manage. I do think in hindsight, I look back and say like, wow, that's kind of, I can be proud of taking those risks, because I think that's the thing that just stops people, is just like, yeah, you do at some point, if you want that, you have to take the risk. You can't do it without it. And I think people want the security or the guarantee without taking the risk. And that's something I'm definitely proud of along the way, and still operating from that place of like, well, where there's a will, there's a way, and I'll just do the work and and figure it out. Which I guess that's something that I do think is kind of a big deal, and something I'm proud of.
Yeah. Well, I think you should be. You don't know how other people look at you or your business. I mean, none of us, we can't see ourselves outside of ourselves, right?
Right.
But I think, your gym has a good reputation. It has a reputation for being providing good quality services, a good quality product, if you want to call it that. Having qualified people that are staffed there. So I think those are all accomplishments, especially in a community where there are so many gyms that, aren't doing great work. They put out a bunch of equipment and they have a high school kid with no training sitting at the front desk. So, and I've experienced that, if you don't know how to use a machine, who's going to show you how to do it? Or, how much does this bar weigh? I remember being at a gym one time asking how much a bar weighed, and there was not one staff person in the gym that knew, which is sort of minor, but does whoever owns that, do you think I got the impression that they cared about their business and the service they were providing?
Right. I mean, and I think what's strange about that is that, or I guess what's not strange, but what I guess is my insecurity, or I think as any business person, is like, well, people are still going to those gyms, right?
Yeah.
And in the world of CrossFit, it's like, well, I mean, people will go down the street and it's somebody doesn't have nearly, and I don't mean this in a gloating way, but like nearly the credentials or the experience or the equipment or the anything that we do. And so then it's like, well, is it, am I that big of a deal? Like, is it not big of a deal, but are we doing exceptional things, or is that just something I'm telling myself? And I think you could probably, maybe in any industry, relate to that. It's kind of tough to like think like, I don't know, the overconfidence, I guess, is what I don't want to be guilty of.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think sometimes we can just get in our heads too much, and that might even have more to do with, how do I think other people think of me? Like if I think I'm the greatest lawyer and I'm so confident about what I can do as a lawyer, and I start worrying about, well, maybe other people don't think that about me, then it's like you can kind of go down a rabbit hole like that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And I guess that's where, but I think that's part of it as well, is not being overly confident. I think there's a very fine line, I think, there with being overconfident and the confidence of, you know what I mean? And then there's like the female piece, or the women business owner piece is, sorry, I'm trying to mute something going on here. The female business side, which is like, oh, don't be boastful, or don't brag, or, you know, whatever that is. So I don't know. It's weird. I think the female business thing is also, there's plenty of male gym owners that, and I'll say it, if our gym was owned by a man, and I'm not like a raging, feminist or anything. Yeah. But I mean, there's plenty of people that walk in and immediately look for like, where's the owner, and assume Bill's the owner. And he is very good at saying like, this is my wife. She actually started this. But I think my reputation would be like, I think it would be bigger or something. I don't think, and maybe that's because of the CrossFit space, and I don't know, but I think it's a tricky thing, the female business.
It is. And we've talked about that a little bit in the past. It's a subject that I like to talk about. And, even as I say it, I feel like every time it comes up, I still have to be careful how I say it, because I don't want someone who's listening to say, oh, she's a man hater, she's a feminist, like the new F word, or maybe the old F word. And I just feel like there's like a lot of, it's charged, and it's charged for women too. It's not just men. So I think there are women who can hear it and be like, oh, what is she talking about?
Yeah, I agree.
But I definitely feel that. I do want to ask you, back when you were starting in the park, what was your vision? Did you have a vision? Like, did you imagine this big CrossFit gym at some point, or where did you think that was going to lead to at the time?
Yeah, I don't think I did have a vision. I mean, I guess my only vision or my mission statement was to, improve people's lives, to change lives. Like, that was really as broad and as kind of cliche as that sounds. But I think it continues to be that way. And that's why we've also evolved beyond just the traditional CrossFit, because I'm not bound to, and ironically, CrossFit touts themselves as, we're not bound to, barbells and this and that. Whatever works, we're attached to that. And I don't think that's probably actually exercised as much. But so for me, it's like asking the question about, am I still doing what's right for people? Am I still offering generally, that the following the belief of how I think I can help people? And so I think that then directs kind of where I go, but I don't know that I had this bigger plan. I think early on when we took on the Dumont location, there was definitely an awareness of like, okay, what's next here? What should I do? Like, I think ahead in many ways about what's this going to look like in 2 years, but not to follow this plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, where do you think, well, first I'll say that I can observe that there's been an evolution. Like, it's not just about, I think that was the title of the podcast, it's not just about the weights for you. And maybe this started as a personal project and just kind of carried over into your work, but you focused a lot on personal development through the gym, not just coming in and lifting something heavy, but having other opportunities for personal development.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit? Did that start in your own life first and then kind of carry over into the gym?
Yeah, I think that was like inherent in trying to help people change their life, I think, is the fact that fitness is far beyond just bicep curls and whatnot. So I think that was always there, like carrying beyond just like, hey, these are the reps and stuff that are going to work. But I definitely think CrossFit tapped into that more so than other fitness efforts. But I guess as my life started to develop and I started looking at CrossFit and fitness as a place that was a way to work on myself, I wanted to bring that and share it with people. And then I guess from there, that was an outlet. But then meeting Bill, looking at the gym, looking at how fitness was evolving, it sort of started to get, though, a little bit more like, is this still the gym? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a line there that is tough to find. Like, where's the end of fitness and where's the beginning?
Yeah, and there's sort of a little overlap. I talked to Bill about his business between the ears, but he coaches at CrossFit. So sometimes it feels like there might be a little bit of an overlap. Like it's easy to make the transition from going to your gym, CrossFit gym, and then having some of the exposure to between the ears and then moving towards that and kind of going, it's almost like a little fluid, like kind of going back and forth. Because you've done some similar things. You've had women's retreat twice that I did, and I thought they were wonderful. You have become coaching. So I want to talk about that. So you have all these other events that you've done that are really not related to the gym aspect, like some personal experience that you can have.
Yeah. And I think that's why the become coaching ended up being a separate like effort. That got separated away from the gym because I did feel like it was kind of the analogy of like a cup that was now overflowing, and so you're just continuing to fill this cup, and people at the gym are like, "Look, I don't need a women's group. I just want to come and like do squats and burpees. Like, please stop telling me how to be a better human." So I think, but I do know that movement and people coming to the gym, coming to CrossFit, are coming for something more than just, the why, or they would just go to the Y and do their lifting. So I think for us evolving, Bill developing between the ears, that certainly was its own thing. And I think there's some elements that we can certainly bring to the gym very carefully. But at a certain point, it is sort of its own, because fitness is like, the difference is the gym is fitness. Yeah. And some of the personal growth is like a part of that. Whereas the other efforts, like between the ears, it's about personal growth, and fitness is only a part of that.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see that. So what kind of projects do you have going on with Become Coaching?
Well, right now it's kind of on hold because it's pretty much all based on events and in person. So I had a women's retreat for veterans that that it was scheduled for October. Now we'll see about that. So that was on the horizon. And it's kind of, I'm not really sure. I mean, Become is definitely a little bit of the mindset, and it is a little bit of fitness, but it's also based on, I would say it's more about like the experiential stuff. So for me, that arm is more of the, like, we've done wine tastings, we've done like even the women's retreat, there's like an element of food and creativity, and like it's trying to create that like experience where you're like, oh my God, that was so amazing. Like the smells and the senses. So for that, it's kind of hard to do that virtually.
Yes.
So I think moving on, I would love to eventually have a trip. Like we've talked about, the Norway trip.
Yes, I nag you about that every once in a while.
I know. So, because Bill and I have shared a lot of time in places like Nashville and, different countries and cities where you can really just have such an incredible experience if you know where to go and the right place and the right sounds and smells and all that stuff. So I think that would be a fun way. And of course, like go to a gym, do a workout, that also, and having the right group of people. But that's sort of where I would love to see it go. Yeah.
Well, I would like to see it go too. I really have been dying to go to Norway. And it'd be nice to go with somebody who speaks the language and knows their way around.
Yes. Well, fortunately we didn't have it planned for this year.
Yeah, I know. That would have been a bummer if that had to get canceled. I do want to talk about your experience with nutrition, because you've been vocal about that and honest about that, how you've had times in your life where you could be obsessive about your nutrition.
Right.
And you've acknowledged you've probably tried like every single, I don't want to say diet, but I guess nutrition plan or whatever, philosophy out there. And I guess, can you share something about what you've learned over the years with that?
Yeah. I guess for me, and when I was referring to like the pendulum sort of swinging back when I was, when I came back from Norway, I definitely went to a place of like obsessive nutrition, and then eventually into like, not eating or bulimia or, that kind of stuff. So I've had my bout with that, as I'm sure many women have. So for me, nutrition, it's kind of a weird thing because I really enjoy like that as a subject and a concept. But it's also hits very close to home, and it's something to be careful of. Like, am I really doing this to see about it and as a professional kind of, or as like a healthy experiment, or am I doing it for the wrong reason? And I think that's a tough one. But I have pretty much done every single, you name it, out there.
The grapefruit diet?
Yeah.
Not the grapefruit diet.
The agave, the maple syrup, lemon, remember that one? It was like cayenne pepper. I had my period of like no fat. Like, I mean, I could eat, I'm sure I was consuming 400 grams of sugar a day, but not a stitch of fat. So there was that. But I think now what I've always strived to get to, and I think it's taken me a very, very long time, and I haven't arrived, but I don't think about food all the time. And I think that is a success. That is something big, because I think the obsessiveness around food, whatever you're doing, you could be doing something that technically works if it's like about losing weight, but that obsession with it inherently is going to be a downfall, a pitfall. And probably what will happen is eventually you won't be able to sustain whatever that is. So any of the diets that are sort of have so many rules, like a lot of rules or counting or those types of things, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't personally feel like that's a longevity thing. Just like it would be the same with fitness. If I said like you have to work out 3 times a day, every day, like sure, you might lose weight for a week, but all you'd wake up thinking about is like, oh my God, I got to do this workout. I got to do this. And eventually you would be like, I don't even want to, like, I'm so burned out. It's not sustainable.
I can relate to the counting because I did the macros thing for a while, and I got so tired of it. And you and I have talked about it. I was completely obsessed with food because I had to count everything. And it was like that was my job. I spent way too much time on it, obsessing about, well, I already had, my carbs for the day, but I still need 25 grams of protein. And how am I going to eat that without getting any fat in there? I just couldn't even take it anymore. And then, I talked to you and you were like, you did a MyFitnessPal intervention. Like, you need to delete it.
I was impressed.
Yeah. And, but that's hard. Like, going cold turkey off MyFitnessPal is really hard, because then there would be days, well, I don't know, how many calories did I eat today? And then I'll admit, I would sneak and be like, oh, I'm going to put MyFitnessPal on here and I'm just going to check and see how many calories I had. And then I would always go back to deleting it.
But I think it's two things. One, it's a false sense of comfort. Like the reality is nobody on this planet knows how many calories you need. And anybody that's saying that, and I've been there where I've told people this, so I'm including myself in that. But scientifically, the way the body works, there isn't this set number that like you, Christina Previtt, every day, this is what you need. So that's what's so challenging. It's like, but it's scary to think like, well, what the hell does that mean now? Like, what, like you just feel very lost, like wanting direction and wanting it to be very cut and dry. And the MyFitnessPal, I mean, when you said you deleted it, I was like, oh my God, like that took me a long time to get rid of that stupid app. And I would go back. It was this like, okay, all right, I'm here, I'm comfortable. I put my things in the app. Like I would physically have a response of sort of like being calm when I could put the numbers in there. But it's all made up. You know what I mean? It's just, it's like, it's not, it's like fairy dust. So then I think it's the work to figure out starting from zero to be like, okay. And I remember like thinking about when I was starting to get frustrated with it and I knew it wasn't maybe the right answer. And there's like the intuitive eating. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Intuitive eating. Like, that's what I want to do. And, but I was like, well, what does that mean? You know? And I think the challenge is it's part of a process. And I would say now I probably am closer to like intuitive eating. Like, I don't really think about food. I mean, and if I don't, like I ate this morning at 8. And I don't think I've actually eaten anything since then. Oh, I had like a one of those like peanut butter balls or something, like one of those date peanut butter balls. So, you know, and then there's days where maybe I am really hungry and I'm like, I am starving and I'm going to eat. So I think that's the place to get to where it's not just this constant, like, can I eat now? What do I want to eat now? You know, how many of this, how many of that? And it does feel very good. Like it feels really good to not feel like I'm in that food prison, you know, because it's a lot of energy and upset, you know.
So if I were you and that's all I had eaten today, I would be thinking in my infected mind, wow, I did really good today. Like nothing. I can pig out a dinner, you know, or maybe I can have, you know, a peanut butter cup or whatever, ice cream later. So it's that thought process that is really hard to change.
Yeah, I think it is. I think we equate food to, like we earned it. You know, we, like, ooh, I get to have this or that. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that ever goes away completely. I have a hard time still, like, I don't have a lot of those, like, I don't have this desire every night to have ice cream. But then if I do have like when I do decide I'm going to have ice cream, it's not like for me, I'm just like, yeah, everything in balance. I mean, it does take me a lot to be like, it's fine that I had the ice cream. So I think because then it's like, ooh, I broke my streak or I was doing so well. And like, I wasn't having ice cream. And now I had ice cream and we make it out to mean so much more. And there's all that, you know, and I know Bill has talked about it and you've heard about it, the rational versus the emotional side. And it's also based on emotional. Like I know in my head, it doesn't mean anything if I, you know, ate that cake one night in the long run of anything, but it's so easy to make it mean so much more. So I think that's just finding that balance of, and you know, eating, so much of it is emotional, you know, like you're bored. Are you hungry? Or are you bored? Like, I mean, I can totally sense now, or I know if I get mad or I'm frustrated or angry and I really just want to eat chocolate. And it's like, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to eat the chocolate. I know what I'm doing and I'm going to do it. And I know it's not going to make me feel any better. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I know that I'm wanting to eat this chocolate because I'm really pissed off. can I like wait and like try to resolve this somehow without the chocolate? And then if I still want the chocolate, like have it because I really want to enjoy it, not because I'm just trying to like bury my emotions. But you know, by no means am I have my own struggle with that as still, but I think when you can, I think probably what you're saying though is you're still in that rational kind of, okay, I have these calories or this allotment of food I can eat every day. And so if I don't eat it at this time, then I get to eat it then. And instead of thinking about it in a less like linear way, it's just kind of like one day you might eat a lot, one day you might not eat a lot.
Well, what about for people that are trying to lose weight? I mean, would MyFitnessPal have some value to them? Or do you feel like MyFitnessPal is like just banned? Like has no
No, I think there's definitely people as a starting point to help them understand like portions, and someone who's like really either chronically overeating or undereating. I mean, I worked with people who would tell me what they ate and who weren't like, they had weight to lose. And when I would look at what they're eating, they weren't eating anything, like barely eating. So I think for some people, it's good to have them understand that, okay, wow, I didn't realize that like that was a serving of meat. I was eating, you know, 5 servings or whatever, that kind of thing. So I think there's a place for it. I think though, it's just a carefully dosed kind of thing. And I think for people also trying to lose weight, it's about so many more things. So I guess it's like starting with one and then tackling the others as you go. But I guess the harm in it is more of a false sense of like results. So like if I stick to these calories, like I'm not worried about my sleep or if it's sugar or if it's bananas or whatever is happening. The what, like it's only about the what and the numbers. It's not about all the other factors going on. And I think that's where it's a problem, because that doesn't work. You have to account for all those other things. And now you've sort of created this crutch and a, you know, like, oh, just like look at the numbers and hey, like I'm doing what's right. So there's a place for it. I just think, and I hesitate in saying this, but I'm going to say it. I disagree with people calling themselves coaches who do the macros, because you're not coaching. You're sending someone numbers, and that's fine. Like say you're a number counter or a number prescriber. But I did have a coach and I got so irate because I'm like, this isn't coaching. You are not coaching me. You are just giving me numbers. And I think people who want to be in the nutrition space and help people truly lose weight, it's got to be about more than just how many calories you eat. And I'm sure that they are not more knowledgeable than like the brightest scientists in the world. If we knew that there was a calculation for people, like, do you know what I mean? Like we're not, that's just not how
they're on the internet.
You're right. You are right.
And you can find 5 and they all give you 5 different numbers too.
But I think the other thing, and I've had to come to terms with this myself, is like, what am I looking to do? Like, what is my, like, how lean, how thin, how whatever do I want to get? And is it realistic? And like, could I get there? Sure. I mean, I could. I mean, you and I could both get down to 100 pounds. What is that going to get me? What is that going to also cost me? So I think healthy is like, we have to redefine too. Sure, there are people that are unhealthy and it is dangerous for them to carry the weight they're carrying. And I don't think there's anything wrong with aesthetically wanting to look a certain way. But I think we all have to be realistic. Like, what is the target we're chasing? Because is there ever an end? I mean, and Bill has been honest with me in that, like, your target is always moving. So when are you going to be happy? Because it's never quite enough. Never quite enough of this. Doesn't, you know, and it's like, okay, I do want to have some enjoyment in my life as well.
Yeah, and you and Bill talked about this on a recent podcast that the two of you do, Between the Ears podcast. And you admitted that there was a time in your life when you counted macros and you literally would have to say, we can't go out to dinner tonight because I don't have enough macros. And you really wouldn't go out to dinner. And then, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like you realized like that this was running your life and you were missing out on socializing and maybe other things because of MyFitnessPal.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, can you, I'll let you
Yeah.
talk.
And I mean, and I look back. Yeah. I look back and it's like, okay, are you frozen? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You were frozen for a second.
Christina.
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I do look back at that and I think, okay, so what I remember about that time is that like not going out to eat, having my phone at every meal, counting. I don't remember like, wow, I was so happy because I was the leanest and thinnest I've ever been.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm losing. So and I think like that's sort of sad. Like, who cares?
Well, I remember one year for my birthday, I was on a diet. I've been on a diet for my whole life and I have really never lost weight. So that's another thing to talk about. But I just remember being on a diet on my birthday and I would normally go to Roots Steakhouse and, have a nice dinner. And I didn't on this one birthday. And I just remember looking back on it like a week later going, that was so stupid. That was my birthday. I mean, why not go out with my friends and enjoy a nice dinner? But for what? It just seems so stupid. Yeah. And I think about all the time I think spent on that.
Yeah, and I think it's the deprivation, It's like, how much are we going to deprive ourselves of? And I don't think, sure, there are some people that are definitely not depriving themselves and need to probably realize like, I don't need to have every day. If I have a craving, I have a craving for donuts. Okay, well, like maybe you shouldn't have them every day. But I think that deprivation is just such a thing. Like, and it's kind of crazy because I think as women, we like have it as like a badge of honor. Like, I didn't have the steak, and it's like, great. And now you like didn't have your birthday be enjoyable. Like, what did you win from that? Like, what control? It's a control. I would think in my experience, it's about kind of control and like I can control if I make this decision and I'm executing this willpower and I didn't have to have that. But it's kind of the same thing. It's like made up, like to who? Like, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, so the takeaway I would want people to get from this is stop being so hard on yourself. Have some goals, figure out how to reach them realistically, right? Like you're not going to lose 50 pounds in a week. And if you need help, get help. Have someone qualified to help you.
Yeah, I think the last thing there's like a echo thing going on. The last thing I would want to say about that is just, trying to connect to like actually how you feel and what you, what your relationship is with food. So I think having goals, like same thing, like connecting to what are your goals and why, connecting to like, what's my relationship with food and why. And I think that in itself will help people achieve their goals without attacking it from the other side of counting or things like that. So,
yeah. I know you have a hard stop time and I want to be respectful of your time, but I do want to ask you, what's next for your gym? What's next for CrossFit Motown? Where's it headed?
I mean, I don't know. Right now, it's a strange place that we're in. It's an interesting thing because as we've evolved, which I think is important, there's also a point at which I feel like there's a like a point where once we evolve past that, it's not really, is it really CrossFit anymore? So I want to respect that people are still wanting to come and do CrossFit. And at a certain point, are we honoring what they want if it's not really that? And so I think that's the challenge. And that's one of the things for me, that embarking on some of these other things has been a good outlet for me to feel like I'm doing the things I want to do, even if the gym isn't the place that really is putting their hand up and saying, like, we want these things. You know, Bill has his endeavors that he's launching, and I think helping him with those is sort of a good place for me to experience a little bit more of that side of things without turning the gym into a between the ears experiment.
Yeah.
But I did love our women's group. I thought that it's just a question of what's challenging about that space is the stuff I want to do. Like, our women's group was great. But if I put the women's group out there to the general public, the linchpin is like, well, it sounds great, but I don't want to go there because it's in a CrossFit gym. I guess it's CrossFit, and I can't. If it looks like a CrossFit and it sounds like a CrossFit and it's in a CrossFit gym, that's the assumption. And so I can't really escape that. And there's only so much I can do within that confine. So I think looking at not so much, you know, for the gym, it's always going to be, we're developing a new intern who's great, and, you know, trying to continue providing people what they want, and doing the best at delivering that. But for myself personally, making sure I have outlets that challenge me and allow me to feel like I'm fulfilling my personal purpose. Because as I said in the beginning, like, my goal has always been to really improve people's quality of life through fitness. And I just want to feel like I'm still doing that. And if there's stuff about CrossFit that maybe I just don't quite agree with, that's not to say that other people are wrong. But I want to make sure I'm, like, in integrity with myself.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see what you have brewing next, because I feel like there is something brewing. When you're ready to talk about it. I did ask you to be prepared to tell me what book has made an impact on you, because I'm a book nerd. And by the way, I'm waiting for you to give me a snapshot of your bookcase.
Right. I feel a little bit of a, not a fake, what's the word? Like, where you pretend to be someone else.
Imposter?
Yes, an imposter. A little bit of imposter syndrome, because Bill is like the most voracious reader. And so we have all these books, and I was actually sitting there looking at them the other day, and I'm like, I haven't read any of these books.
I have a lot of books I haven't read on my shelf.
Okay. But I feel like, did you ask me this on our first podcast?
If I did, I don't recall that. About the books.
Maybe we did. But my book, this one is, I don't mean like this is an easy answer, but for me now, I haven't read the thousands of books that Bill has read. But for me, it is the book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
He said the same book. Did you guys talk about this?
No. And I thought about asking him, but I'm like, if I ask him, then she's going to think that I actually pick the same. But I'm like, I feel like he's going to say the same book.
That's so funny.
So that book, because there's many wonderful books. I mean, I have read, despite what Bill told people on our coffee chat today, that I was reading a coloring book.
Oh, man. I'm sure you meant that in a very loving way.
But that book was just, I guess, for sure, because it has a special place in our relationship.
Yeah.
But I think more so, like, the reason, it's not just because of us, the reason our relationship works and how we found each other and how I think it's been so incredible for each other is because we both believe in that same principle of, like, having that personal destiny and pursuing it. And that passion for, having a purpose. So I don't think it's a book about us, it's more like the commonality, the reason that we both just found that so compelling. And it's such a beautifully written book, and it's simple. It's not a book like this big that you're like agonizing over finishing. It just is just such a, like, it's a very elegant book.
Well, it's one of those books on my shelf that I haven't read yet, so I'm going to put it
You
at the top.
haven't?
No, it comes up so often. I'm going to put it at the top of the pile.
I have one of his other books, and I have to say I didn't find that as, like, that book was in particular because of its, and I think you would enjoy it because you have that same, you have that drive to, like, what do I want to do, and what's my what's my purpose. So I think you would enjoy it.
Thank you. I'm going to read it. I'm going to put it on the top of the pile. So my final question, which Bill actually suggested I ask you too, because I asked him and I got his answer. So he wanted to see if you had the same explanation.
Okay.
Why does he call you K Animal? Where did that come from?
I'm not really, my interpretation of it is probably because, like, I do think I guess this is my interpretation 100% because I don't know for sure. But probably because I'm a little crazy, like kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think some of it is like in a positive way, like very, like, I don't mean animalistic, but like, just, you're gonna like go like the lion, like go for it and just do your thing. But some of it's a little, yes, I am an Aries. Some of it's probably a little bit on the like crazy side of like a rabid raccoon kind of thing too.
Yeah.
So I guess, and it's, endearing, like whenever there's something I do that's just a little bit forceful or kind of aggressive or like, determined, it's like that's the K Animal part of me. So I'm not sure if that was in line with what he explained, but
well, I'm a little tempted to say you'll just have to go back and watch the interview with him. But I'll tell you, he said that you were traveling together. I want to say it was North Carolina or South Carolina, and he said he must have been hopped up on sugar or something that day, and you were just like out of control, and he started calling you K Animal, and it just stuck. So it wasn't, unlike what you just described, but he knew
there was a lot of sugar in our past. Well, he should know the origin because he did coin the phrase, so that's good.
Yes, yeah. So you're consistent with each other, but I wanted to thank you for your time and for sharing.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course, this is the second time now.
I know.
Call veteran.
I am. Are you enjoying your podcasting?
I am, and actually, I was on Gary V, Tea with Gary V. My claim to fame.
Bill did tell me that.
Yeah, it was fun, and he actually suggested that I do these. I do go Facebook Live and just start producing content live because I still have the podcast and I love doing that, but I found like it was time to like grow into something else. So this is it.
Yeah. Cool.
So thanks for coming on. I know video is not everybody's jam. So
it's fine. It's just sometimes I'm finding with Zoom and the delay, sometimes that's like,
the technology is great when it works.
Yeah. So I hope I wasn't like fragmented or anything weird, but thank you for having me on.
Of course, thank you.
I missed you.
I know, I miss you too. I'm kind of tempted to start doing the Zoom classes. I know for anybody who's watching, you're doing the Zoom CrossFit classes, and I hear actually
like it. You should try it. Try it. All you have to do is try it once.
What equipment would I need for that? Like, what do you use?
You have a ball and a kettlebell, right?
Yeah.
We assume everybody has like one thing, and everything works with that one thing.
All right. Well, I'll try it then. Maybe I can get Russ to try it too. I don't know about that.
There you go. All right.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks.